All right, what's up, everybody? It is February 16th, 2023, and this is going to be a chart review for ES. All right, so first off, let's just look at the daily, and you'll notice there's a lot of stuff on here that I have drawn out on here. Let me give you a little explanation of some of this stuff. I know we've talked about it in the past a little bit, but and ICT brings these things up as well a lot. But two big things on the daily. We have these weekly gaps, one right here and one right here. The way you find that is this is Friday's candle, this is Monday's candle, the close of that to the open of that. It's a weekly opening gap, right? So ICT has been calling these out for a while. This one was from 2 weeks ago. And then this one right here is from this week. And you'll see price has been bouncing around between those a little bit. So yeah, they're pretty interesting, significant points. And today it really played out like that. So a couple other things: previous high of the day, previous low of the day. That's always important to have out there. 8:30 price, midnight price. That's good to have. And I have some liquidity targets. We can actually get rid of all those. I haven't done anything since the trading day. So we also have the CEs marked of those gaps. Those are very significant. Usually, it can be, I guess, I would say. Everything I draw out, it's like, it could be significant, right? You don't know until it gets there, and then you want to see how it reacts. Couple other things. This gap here, so I've been watching this daily gap. I haven't really wanted to shade it. I didn't want to shade it today because it's basically just we're gonna be in it all day. I was predicting anyway. So I went and just put a gap top and gap bottom line, so I knew where that was, just so I could refer to it throughout the day, and then also the CE of that as well. Now there's some other lower time frame things that you'll see here, and we'll get into that in a minute. But before we do, let's talk about what's happening, right? So from this push up, we had a pullback, another push up, and these didn't necessarily hit the golden fib retracements. Oops, wrong button. But I do want to show you what the golden fib does show here, right? So after this push up, the golden fib from that was something I had my eye out for, right? For retracement down there. And you'll see we did get that. It took till last Friday to get it because we actually had a little bounce up here off, I guess, you can say it's probably from the CE of that gap, right? Because that gap opened, we come back down, hit the CE, come back up, and finally make our way back into that golden zone. There is a 4-hour gap that we'll go into, but from there, right? So we have this, right? And you'll see from that, and we can even take it from here, right? It's probably a better way to take it. There are other waves through here, right? So, but here's the big one. Top to bottom, golden zone, and we push down today, right? So this stuff sort of lines up. And you want to use that golden fib to just sort of look for areas that it could reverse. And it's been working out really well this week because we've had these, up and down waves that have pretty much matched that fib. I mention that because I feel like we're about to break that. All right. We have this here, and this latest run up The golden fib we got into today. And we didn't get into it just once. We got in twice. I'll leave this fib up because it'll be relevant. But after hours, right, this is Friday's candle. On futures, it starts at 6, I believe. And we do have a gap, right? We'll mark that tomorrow. Not going to worry about it right now. We have kept pushing down from that. And I think that we're on to a bigger retracement now. Okay. So we had the retrace from here, which came down into this bounce up. And I think it is going to start the leg down soon. And that leg down would be, I believe, would be this push up would be the next one, right? See how it aligns with fair value gap that hasn't been balanced, right? So that is what I'm looking at. Could Friday's candle wick up and actually start an uptrend to break, you know, the bear market, basically take this high? Oops. Sure. But that's not what it's looking like right now. Okay? So you gotta go with what it's giving you right now. And right now, what it's giving is that we could be coming through where a bounce would happen. Right? We've been in lower waves and not making new highs, right? What it's giving me is a reason to look lower. All right. So I know we don't always talk about bias, but I thought that was pretty significant because we haven't had a longer term bias in a little while, in a couple weeks. So wanted to point that out, but let's get into what happened today. This will be important for chart prep tomorrow if we are to continue downwards. But let's go into today. So I'm going to leave this golden area up because it is significant. And we'll go straight into a 15-minute. All right. So you'll see that London really kicked off the downtrend. And I talk about this a lot, but this is one thing that you want to keep in mind. When markets open, you want to look at that initial move, right? So you see here, 3 a.m., that's London open. And what did it do? It ran right above the high here, right? So that's a good indication that it's looking down, right? It was already building a little downtrend, but then it pops that and we tank, right? There was some news that is used as an excuse for dropping further. And you'll see, where did we drop, right? Remember where that golden fib was drawn from. It's from the daily, from the last leg up. The golden fib is a retracement. So it comes down here, and you want to use the golden fib and the PD array that's in there. So the big PD array that's in there is that weekly open gap, right? Weekly open gap in the CE. Comes all the way down, goes through, but wicks right up, bodies respect the CE, and we head up, right? There's some entries in there. We'll go over those in a minute. But where do we head up to? Well, you see we busted through here, so I'm gonna take this golden fib off. So where do we head up to? I believe we head up to there. Correct. Look at that. What a coincidence. So, top of London, where it took out the highs, bottom of the move, golden fib, went right to it. This is a 15-minute gap that I had laid out because it was within this golden. So, before 9:30, or actually right after 9:30 took this low, I drew out a golden fib, and I marked this 15-minute gap as a potential target and the CE of that gap, right? That is also within this big purple area, which is the new week open gap from 2 weeks ago. This is something that ICT was talking about a lot. It's also 830 price. It's right above 830 price. That's another sign, because you can use 830 price as like a premium discount line for the day, right? We're in a discount, deep discount. Head up to a premium, right? Into a gap within the golden fib. And what do? Respect the CE. It comes in, doesn't even really take any lows here, but this is the lunchtime move. The post-lunch move goes up again to get people going long and dumperino through the new week open gap down here, and it kept going even after close, which is why I talked about what I talked about at the very beginning of the video. All right, we'll see if this recovers, but as of right now, it's looking like we could be going down on the daily. Now this old 15-minute gap, not sure if it's very relevant anymore. It's from Tuesday. It was not closed up when I started my chart prep today, so obviously it did trade through 3 times, so I don't know if it's exactly relevant anymore, but I did have it up today, so we'll get rid of that. This orange line here is the CE of the daily gap, I'm pretty sure. There's the gap top and the gap bottom. Yeah, I think that is CE. That was a target throughout the day too that I was looking at. But let's get into the entries. There was a pretty cool entry condition here. There's a pretty straightforward entry condition here for the drop. But there was also a cool setup using the NQ that I want to go into as well. This is the daily imbalance we didn't get up there. I was looking at that, and if we could have finished this move, that was going to be my target, but ended up not mattering at all. So anyway, let's drop down to the 1 minute. All right, in the 1 minute, we have down here, it looks kind of like a hot mess, right? 9:30 open right here. It actually goes up and takes these highs. But then the real manipulation move is this, right? And I believe this would be a breaker. Low, taking lows, taking highs, taking lower lows. I believe that's a breaker. And I believe ICT had this candle pointed out, or maybe this series of candles pointed out. I didn't play the breaker move. The thing I had my eyes on was this being sort of like a balanced price range, a BPR entry. And with that, I will grab the smallest gap and move it over. Now, it did violate that a little bit with this, right? So it was a tough kind of entry with that. But got a better entry. So could you have entered in here? Yeah, but it wasn't great, right? Here's the better entry. Once we actually displace through the swing high, we got a gap there. Come back into the gap, respect it, and up we go. All right, so that went up to the golden zone that we talked about. I took the golden thing off, but hopefully you remember the golden zone, the 15-minute gap that was within that golden zone, and the CE of that, which was respected both times There were no bodies above that CE. I think that was the significant PD array there. But, you know, other entries, sure, but it was tough. It was sloppy. This entry to me was the real winner. That's where you could feel confident, I think. And if you took it from there, I mean, it was quite a ride up. 4108 to, you know, let's say you use the CE and it gets out right here, 4144. So you're talking about what? 36? Is it 36? Handles, pretty solid, pretty solid. We didn't really break many rules. Or we bent the rule here, right? But I would say there wasn't a displacement through a high, so your stop loss should have been like under here, so you would have been fine. But obviously, you know, it wasn't a straight shot. It got a little choppy in here and got a little hairy, but it eventually did get there. Lunch, like I mentioned, it didn't really, like, I guess it swept this low. I was looking for it to take out this one because we had, you know, sort of relative equals here. This one comes down a little further, but so that was interesting. And then when it came back up here, there were a couple entries that could have been had for that. Like I believe on 5 minute it was pretty clear too, but there's that gap here. We touched and took off a couple times. So that was decent, you know, but the real setup was for the downside, and it was this gap here. You know, this is a very strong candle that broke lows, created a gap, came back into that, and really didn't, I mean, it touched right there, but didn't do much other than that before the big dump. Now, I didn't take that play. I had made several good trades throughout this run, so I was sitting pretty when this happened, so I just watched. But it was quite the dump. I feel bad that I didn't get in. I should have gotten in on it, but I didn't think that it would come all the way back down to this new week open gap, but it did. So that was pretty cool to see. Pretty impressive. You do notice, okay, gap top, right? So this is that 1 day gap. You see how that still, even though it went through, it still played a little bit of a role, right? Bounced off it a couple times, came up, did a little consolidation once it got there, comes down, bounce off the CE, then broke, then comes down, bounce off of this sell side target. I don't even remember what that sell side target was. I think that was from the daily. Let me get rid of that. I would say that's more of just hitting the gap and coming up, and then hitting the bottom of the gap, and then clean breakthrough. But pretty cool stuff. There was also one interesting scenario that happened during this whole thing. If you look at, and let's see here. Let me pull this out. I'm going to go side by side here. Sorry, this is going to be a little confusing for a second. Oh, looks like it's got my 5 and 15. What I want to do, actually, let's do this type of layout. Yeah, that would be better. What I want to show you is the 1 minute of ES on that move up there versus the 1 minute of NQ. So ICT will call this an SMT divergence, I believe. But you see the big difference here? So this is not the 1 minute. Let me change that to the 1 minute. It's so different, I can't even tell where it is. Okay, I believe it's right in here. Okay, so this is the same move, right? You'll notice something pretty clear, right? NQ was much lower. These runs didn't push up as high on NQ. Now, one thing that I was looking at for this is during this area of the move, when ES didn't take this low, but NQ was thoroughly through that section, like that was way up here. It had dropped down really far and taken lows. I thought that would give a little push up on ES, and it did, because it had taken a lot of liquidity there, and it deserved a little bit of a push up. But it did not break this high here, and clearly on ES it did. So that's a little divergence that you just want to be aware of. I'm not an expert at playing this kind of divergence yet, but it's something I really want to just keep getting experience with, because it can sort of tip the hat at what the play is going to be. And I think for this, with NQ not making higher highs and ES making a higher high here and intermediate high, it didn't break this one. I guess short-term high is more likely what it is. But it didn't break this. You know, I think it showed some potential downside. We had the same play with that, and the dump looked very similar after that. So just something I thought was pretty cool to see, and hopefully we'll get some more experience looking at that and trying to add that to the mix to give us a little bit of a bias of what the next move is going to be, what to look out for. Obviously, the entry is still clear no matter what you're looking at. But if you see this entry condition and you think we're still going for a push up because your bias is bearish, you're likely not going to enter, right? This could give you a better bias looking at it. Anyway, just want to point that out. That's all I really wanted to go over tonight. Hopefully you guys had a good trading day and had some success. And if not, there's moves like this every day. Just gotta keep getting experience and, paper trade them until you feel comfortable. And one day you will be able to take full advantage. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.